Welcome to another deep dive. Get ready for some serious drama, Hollywood style. We're going to be looking at the ongoing legal battle between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. It all started with the film adaptation of Colleen Hoover's book, It Ends With Us, but things have gotten a lot more complicated since then. Our sources for this deep dive include a recent video by Candace Owens, where she drops some alleged insider info. We also have some court transcripts and even some resurfaced interviews. Think master manipulators, secret plaintiffs, and a judge who isn't messing around. Are Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds playing the victim? Or are they pulling the strings behind the scenes? Let's unpack the evidence, and you can decide.
It's fascinating how much speculation surrounds this case. Social media is buzzing, fueled by figures like Candace Owens, who claims to have the inside scoop on some shocking developments. It really blurs the lines between public opinion and legal proceedings, especially with high-profile celebrities involved.
Right. And Candace Owens definitely doesn't hold back, suggesting that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds might be trying to isolate and destroy Justin Baldoni. Let's start with Colleen Hoover, the author of the book this whole film is based on. Initially, she publicly supported Lively in the lawsuit, even praising her while staying silent about Baldoni. But now Hoover has deactivated and reactivated her Instagram, deleting all photos with Lively. Owens interprets this as Hoover distancing herself from Lively, possibly due to backlash and pressure from mommy sleuths, which is a term used to describe online communities of mothers who meticulously investigate and dissect information, often related to celebrities or public figures.
Hoover's actions definitely raise questions about her motivations. Is she genuinely regretting her previous stance and trying to distance herself from Lively? Is she trying to protect her brand by bowing to public pressure? Or could this be a strategic legal move, carefully calculated to present a more neutral stance as the lawsuit unfolds? You'll recall that in an early interview, Hoover was very vocal about her admiration for Baldoni, praising his dedication to the project and his engagement with the book's fans. Contrast that with her later post, where she's commending Blake Lively, saying, "You've been nothing but honest, kind, supportive, and patient." It's a noticeable shift. That has people speculating.
It is a pretty dramatic change in tone. Now buckle up, because things get even more interesting with the introduction of a potential mystery plaintiff. During a court hearing, Lively's lawyers hinted at bringing someone new into the lawsuit, possibly to support their claims. What's the legal strategy behind adding another plaintiff, and what could it mean for the case overall?
Adding another plaintiff, who claims to have experienced similar issues with Baldoni, could make the accusations against him seem more credible, creating the impression of a pattern of behavior, rather than an isolated incident. However, Lively's lawyers have only said they will ask the potential plaintiff to accept service, implying that they're not even sure this person is willing to participate.
Candace Owens claims to have heard through a TikToker. That actress, Jenny Slate, was the one being approached, but is hesitant to get involved. Owens suggests that this might indicate Lively's team is grasping at straws, trying desperately to find someone, anyone, to back up their claims. If this new plaintiff backs out, it could seriously weaken Lively's case.
Absolutely. But speaking of Jenny Slate,
Yeah.
we can't overlook the very strong statement of support she released for Lively. Right after the lawsuit was filed, she called Lively a trusted source of emotional support. But Candace Owens is skeptical, suggesting that Slate might have been manipulated or was simply trying to be a good friend, even if she had doubts.
And it's hard to forget the dramatic language Slate used in her statement, calling the attacks on Lively terribly dark, disturbing, and wholly threatening. Owens points to this as evidence of Slate potentially exaggerating the situation. It raises interesting questions about the dynamics of female friendships and how far someone might go to support a friend, even if they have reservations. Is there a chance Slate wasn't being completely transparent, and could ulterior motives be at play?
It's certainly possible. Public support doesn't always align with private feelings, especially when social pressure or personal relationships are involved. It's worth considering whether Slate's motivations were entirely altruistic.
Now hold on tight, because this is where things take a surprising turn. A 2022 interview with Blake Lively has resurfaced, where she casually admits to taking over film projects she initially agreed to only act in. She even calls it a rug pull tactic, implying a level of, say, strategic maneuvering.
Yeah.
That could raise eyebrows.
Candace Owens sees a direct connection between this admission and the current lawsuit, arguing that it reveals a pattern of manipulation and potential misrepresentation on Lively's part. She's essentially using Lively's own words to paint a picture of someone who might not be entirely trustworthy.
It's pretty jarring to hear Lively describe, in her own words, how she essentially maneuvers herself into positions of greater control, potentially misleading those she works with along the way. Do you think this rug pull admission could actually damage her credibility in the eyes of the court? And is there any legal precedent for past behavior influencing the outcome of a lawsuit like this?
Owens is making a bold claim, and whether the court will consider this past behavior relevant to the current case remains to be seen. But it definitely adds another layer of complexity to the situation and could influence public perception of Lively.
Okay, get ready for this. Candace Owens drops a bombshell by sharing an email she claims is from Ryan Reynolds' childhood drama teacher. The teacher describes a young Reynolds as, and I quote, narcissistic, unkind, and deceitful.
This is where things get a bit more speculative. While it's true that childhood experiences can have a lasting impact on a person's behavior, using them to explain adult actions is tricky territory. Is it fair to connect Reynolds' alleged childhood behavior to his current legal situation?
Well, Owens doesn't hesitate to draw that connection. She links this childhood assessment to Reynolds' alleged controlling and manipulative tendencies as an adult, suggesting his past might be fueling his actions today.
We have to remember that we're dealing with one person's account from many years ago, and it's dangerous to draw definitive conclusions about someone's character based solely on this type of anecdotal evidence.
But there's one detail from the email that Owens highlights that really sticks with you. The teacher recounts an incident where Reynolds supposedly faked tears in front of his class, then admitted to her that he was just acting.
It's certainly a powerful anecdote that raises questions about authenticity. However, without more context or corroboration, it's crucial to be cautious about taking this at face value.
Now let's move on to what some are calling the judge's smackdown. Lively's lawyers requested an extension to amend their complaint, using a separate lawsuit filed by Jed Wallace as justification. However, Baldoni's lawyer Brian Friedman called them out, accusing them of trying to manipulate the court with what he called baseless attacks.
Friedman is a key player in this whole saga. He's known for a sharp legal mind and his aggressive approach, and he's certainly not holding back against Lively and Reynolds.
And it seems like the judge might be siding with Friedman on this one. He granted Lively's team only a one-day extension, seemingly rejecting their arguments. Could this be a sign that the tide is turning in Baldoni's favor?
Looking at the bigger picture, the judge's decision could signal a growing skepticism towards Lively's claims and a potential frustration with their legal tactics. Remember that the judge stated very clearly, the Lively parties have not offered good cause for any further extension. That statement carries a lot of weight.
It definitely doesn't look good for Lively and Reynolds, especially considering the judge's blunt assessment.
It suggests the judge is holding them to a high standard and expects stronger justification for their requests. This could be a significant setback for their case moving forward. What's interesting is that Candace Owens connects this legal maneuvering to a broader societal trend, suggesting that people are becoming more aware of manipulation and less tolerant of those who engage in it.
So she's saying that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds might be on the wrong side of a cultural shift.
That's her argument. She also delves into some psychological analysis, drawing parallels between this case and true crime, suggesting that it taps into deeply rooted anxieties, particularly among women, about safety and manipulation. The public's fascination with this case seems to go beyond celebrity gossip. It resonates with concerns about deception, power dynamics, and the potential for abuse, especially within the entertainment industry.
This is where Owens gets really interesting. She speculates that Blake Lively might be completely unaware of how manipulative her actions appear to others. She even uses this hilarious analogy, comparing Lively to a plumber who suddenly decides to reorganize your closet and become your dad.
That's a funny image. But it does underscore the potential for overstepping boundaries and the unease that can arise when someone exerts control in unexpected ways. If Lively is truly unaware of the impact of her actions, it adds another layer of complexity. Is she intentionally deceiving people? Or is she genuinely oblivious to how her behavior is perceived? This question could be crucial in determining the outcome of the lawsuit.
And then there's this quote from Lively's interview with Vogue, where she talks about her approach to writing. She says she enjoys starting with a script and finding something people have overlooked. It almost sounds like she gets a thrill out of taking other people's work and making it her own.
Owens argues that this quote feeds into the narrative of Lively, constantly seeking more control and influence, even if it means pushing boundaries or exceeding her initial agreements. It's a pattern that Owens believes is emerging, and one that doesn't reflect well on Lively.
And Owens connects this pattern of behavior to the accusations of promissory fraud that are central to the lawsuit. For those who aren't familiar with the term, promissory fraud essentially means making a promise with no intention of keeping it. Owens suggests that if Lively has a history of inserting herself into projects beyond her initial agreement, it supports Baldoni's claim that she misrepresented her intentions from the start.
It's a thought-provoking argument. If Lively has a pattern of overstepping boundaries and taking control, it could lend credence to Baldoni's claims of deception. This brings us back to Ryan Reynolds and that anecdote from his childhood, where he allegedly faked tears, later admitting he was just acting. Owen suggests that this early display of manipulation might foreshadow his current behavior.
It's tempting to draw a direct line between childhood behavior and adult actions. But how much weight can we really give to a single incident from someone's past?
You're right to be cautious. It's important to avoid simplistic connections between childhood and adulthood. Countless factors contribute to a person's development, and it's impossible to say with certainty that this one incident from Reynolds' past is directly related to his current situation. However, Owens does point to a pattern in Reynolds' public persona, specifically his tendency to bring up his childhood traumas, particularly those related to his father.
And there was that unusual promo he did with his mom for It Ends With Us, where they talked about his unresolved issues with his dad. It felt a bit too personal and calculated, almost like he was trying to manipulate public perception.
Owen suggests that bringing up his past traumas in this context could be a calculated move to garner sympathy and deflect blame. It's a tactic we've seen before with celebrities facing controversy. By sharing personal details that make them seem relatable and sympathetic, they attempt to control the narrative and preempt criticism.
It's a classic PR strategy. Now, Owens doesn't just focus on the individuals involved in this drama. She also zooms out to consider the bigger picture, suggesting that this entire case is a symptom of a societal shift, a growing intolerance for manipulation, and a demand for greater transparency and accountability, especially from those in positions of power.
It's an interesting observation. We are seeing increasing skepticism towards authority figures and institutions, including celebrities. People are demanding more authenticity and ethical behavior. Owens suggests that Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds might be on the wrong side of this cultural shift, that their carefully cultivated image as a charming and relatable power couple is starting to crack.
So their carefully crafted persona could be their downfall.
That's what Owens argues. She believes that as more information comes to light, their brand, which relies heavily on their perceived relatability and good-natured humor, could suffer irreparable damage. In fact, Owens even goes so far as to predict that this scandal could lead to Taylor Swift distancing herself from the couple to protect her own image.
That's a bold prediction. But it does make you wonder about the potential consequences for anyone associated with Lively and Reynolds right now.
It's a reminder that in the age of social media, reputations are fragile, and guilt by association is a very real concern.
So Candace Owens leaves us with a cliffhanger and a lot of unanswered questions. Where does this case go from here?
It's impossible to know for sure, but one thing is certain. The stakes are incredibly high for everyone involved. Careers and reputations are on the line, and the outcome of this lawsuit could have a ripple effect throughout the entire entertainment industry.
It's a real-life Hollywood drama unfolding before our eyes.
And just like a good movie, we're left wondering who is telling the truth, who is pulling the strings, and ultimately, who will come out on top.
This whole case feels like a cautionary tale, a reminder that the polished image we see in Hollywood often hides a much more complicated reality.
It really exposes the potential dark side of fame and ambition, and how those things can impact the people caught in the crossfire.
We've heard Candace Owens' take on the situation, but where does this leave us in terms of the lawsuit itself? Is the tide turning in Baldoni's favor?
It's still too early to say for sure. The legal process is complicated, and there are many factors that could influence the outcome. However, the judge's recent decision to deny Lively and Reynolds a longer extension could indicate a growing skepticism towards their arguments, and the mounting public scrutiny definitely doesn't work in their favor.
It's a classic he said, she said situation, with both sides presenting conflicting accounts of what happened. What kind of evidence could be the deciding factor in this case?
Ultimately, it comes down to tangible proof. Each side needs to provide concrete evidence to support their claims. We're not just talking about hurt feelings or creative differences here, but serious accusations of fraud, manipulation, and potentially even illegal activity. The stakes are incredibly high, with careers, reputations, and a lot of money hanging in the balance.
This is a story that's far from over, and it's one that has captivated public attention. What do you think is driving this fascination?
I think it's more than just celebrity gossip. It speaks to a broader cultural conversation about power, accountability, and the often blurred lines between public image and private behavior. This case raises important questions about how we hold powerful individuals accountable for their actions, both on and off screen.
As we wrap up this deep dive, what's the key takeaway you hope our listeners walk away with?
I encourage you to consider the different perspectives we've explored. Weigh the evidence carefully and draw your own conclusions. Don't be swayed by the noise of social media or the carefully curated images, often presented by celebrity culture. Think critically, question everything, and remember, there's always more to the story than meets the eye.
It's a reminder to be discerning consumers of information, especially in the age of social media, where narratives can be easily manipulated and the truth can be elusive. As this case continues to unfold, it will be interesting to see how the legal system navigates these complex issues of power, perception, and accountability. And for our listeners, we'd like to leave you with this final thought. What if this entire legal battle is just a distraction? A carefully orchestrated smokescreen to divert attention from something even bigger? We'll be keeping a close eye on this developing story, and we'll be back with more deep dives soon.